I'm Mindy Martell. I'm president of Clothing Air Design Source and the Apparel Mentor. And today I have Harrie Schoots with me, who's a consultant for the apparel industry and running Revive USA. And thanks for being with us today, Harrie.
Thank you, Mindy. I appreciate it. It's always fun to make a bridge between my side of this world and your side of this world. And that's that I think it's important, and it's been lacking in our country for a while, ever since NAFTA.
Yeah, so I guess I'd love for you to just tell us, what is your specialty? What would you say you specialize in?
All right. Well, I'm a textile chemist by trade. So it's one of those things that once you're taught kind of the secrets of how things are dyed and finished and bleached and all the chemistries that are involved in making clothing look like something, feel like something, fit like something. Fit is a little, we might be getting too much into your space by saying fitting, but I think that's pretty much my, not only is what I went to school for. I got a BS in textile chemistry, dyeing and finishing concentration from NC State's College of Textiles, now the Wilson College of Textiles. And that was back 2 years after NAFTA. So 2 years after NAFTA, it was still a pretty solid major. We had lots of jobs.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I call myself the youngest of the old people, because I was the last class that had 40 interviews with dye houses, and I worked in a dye house, and then most of us shifted either from going to brands or working for suppliers. I worked for suppliers, so I got to go around the world and help people adopt new chemistries or technologies. So I would say, to answer your question, the chemistry of apparel is my specialty. And then if you take that a little further, it's the business development of it. So it's the building a value proposition from resin, fiber, yarn, fabric to garment, and helping the people selling garments understand the value of whatever you've injected, that kind of thing.
Right, right. Such an interesting job that you have. In my next life, I'll specialize in that, because that's been something that's just fascinating. And you know how you said fit, I actually understand how incredibly different each fabric fits, right?
Yeah.
So you do, I mean, definitely the chemistry of it and how it gets put together affects the fit.
Oh, sure. Yeah, and there's mechanical things we do to fabric to make something shrink less or shrink more before you cut and sew it. And so all these problems you have at the sewing machine are already been determined by the person before you.
Yes.
and there are solutions to all those things. It's just they don't always communicate. So most of the time it's, hey, how much does that cost? And they'll say, well, it costs this much, and they'll say, we'll take it. And that then becomes the problem of the next person. But if you look down on a situation, you would hope that your overall profits are good, and that whatever problems are caused. But that's all part of the textile chemistry world, is yarn type, how they spin it, which way they spin it, how you introduce it to a fabric. There is somebody behind every problem at the sewing machine. There's definitely somebody who knows how to fix it. And that's the part that I think what you're doing is a good thing, that you have people who will start to understand, where do I go to figure out this skewing problem, right? Oh, there's a test method for skewing. Oh, who makes that test method? Well, there must be people who know about skewing, right? And then you can kind of like a DaVinci Code figure out where you need to go, maybe.
Yeah, that's exactly how it works. Oh my gosh, that's so funny you said DaVinci Code. I feel like that's how the apparel industry works. If you want to find out anything, you gotta ask this one person who leads you to this next lead, who leads you to this next lead, until you kind of get all the way down to whatever the root could be. And like you said, I've been in the cut and sew side of it and the design side of it for about 20 years, but the fiber side of it is still pretty mysterious to me.
They like it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and so does the cut and sew side, really. I mean, they kind of, everyone kind of likes it mysterious, which is really bizarre, but it does.
Well, it's about the way people protect themselves in business in this modern globalized world. You choose patents. Some people do that. I have a lot of experience patenting things, but do we have a lot of experience protecting patents? Do you call your customer and sue them? Is that no, not many people do that. But it's something you do to make sure people know you're serious, But I think trade secret is the way most people go. Late in the 90s, I know large dye companies chose trade secret over patenting. And so you have to find a network of people who are not covered as much by those trade secrets. And I think then you can start to unravel that code, I think.
Yeah, the mystery for sure. So tell us a little bit about like what's new in your world, like what's new and up and coming in the chemistry / fiber world.
Well, I think what's new is what we just can say, well, it's not a shutdown anymore. So let's just put that over here. Any attempt to pretend that didn't happen is not appropriate, I think, right? So there's a lot of logistics issues still. There's still problems with security of supply globally. I think that has led to what's new being that U.S. reshoring could still have some hope, I think, in the near 5 to 10 years. I know I'm personally part of that. I hope to open a facility maybe someday that helps me transfer what I know to someone who wants to learn it. That's really what I think we haven't done in the last 30 years. So I don't blame anyone for that. I just know that we have to learn how to do this stuff and not have to pay $200,000 to go to school for it, right? Just to learn as a technical fact how to dye a garment, how to finish a garment, how to print on a garment. So I think there's a lot of hope because of what we just went through. I think, a lot of retailers and brands, they have always had an interest in a Western Hemisphere strategy, but it's always been like 5%, 10%, and those things that they needed. I know some that have a 20%, sourcing from Western Hemisphere, and it's just because of lead time. Okay, so that being said, I think what's really, if you watch LinkedIn or you look on social media and you have to filter through the voices. I talk with people all the time, and this comes up. You have to push the voices away sometimes because let's think about sustainability. Okay, there's that word.
Yes.
And the word sustainability hasn't been used a lot, but I have since late 90s developed processes that use less water. And they did that because it saved them time so that they can put out more product.
Right.
We always have been trying to do that. We just didn't call it something.
Sure.
Do I feel good that I think I saved 1 billion gallons of drinking water since I did that? Yeah, I do. And I think everyone has that little itch inside them to try to save something.
Right.
So that's what's coming. I think people haven't been able to figure out, though, everything. If you look at recycled polymers, recycled yarns, now we're using the word circular. I think circular is a better word than sustainable, but we used to use the word strategic, right?
Yeah.
Something that will last. Circular means that you're part of a cycle. You're part of a material flow. And that is important because if you want to recycle truly, you have to know what that circle is, who's participating, Where is it going? Where does it end up when it's done? I think people are going to be searching for post-consumer recycled goods, meaning that it's not post-industrial means that somebody makes some yarn, it's off quality, somebody buys it and figures out a way to make it on quality. Okay. And then it goes to the consumer or the cut and sew. Post-consumer is you've made a garment, it goes out into the world, gets used for a few years and comes back. And we're going to take apart that yarn. We're going to remake the yarn and then maybe remake fabric with it. So those things are going to be coming. So if you want to know what's more important, just the word recycling isn't enough. Now it's post-consumer goods recycling, in my opinion. We have experienced, people have done good work. Recycled polyester yarn, for instance, recycled nylon 6 yarn. A lot of that comes from non-textile stuff, though. So they'll get like plastic,
like water bottles,
right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you something. And I'm not saying anyone does this, but let's be rational here. If you're told as a plant manager, you need to bring in X pounds of plastic in one end and send out X pounds of yarn out of the other, and you have a machine in the middle that can never turn off. It can never not be fed. What happens when you don't get all the bottles you need that Monday? You're going to fill in the difference with virgin.
You buy plastic.
Yeah.
Or you buy polymer or whatever. Yeah.
So all that stuff needs to be very carefully monitored. I think now I wouldn't hold that against anyone who did that. It's not sustainable to let one of those machines turn off, that's for sure. Consumers don't really know all that, though. And so it's important that that suppliers supplying technology share all the facts with the brands so that they know what their callouts can be. The merchandisers know what's my differentiating point. So another thing that's coming around the corner, other than the recycled products and the circular, post-consumer goods, is I'm trying to think of the. Okay, so here's the thing. It's people are really truly looking at what they call carbon chain finishes. So flame retardant finishes, DWR, durable water repellent finishes, things that give functionality to shirts and jackets and pants. These things are being looked at a little bit more strenuously. The chemical suppliers certainly are investing in trying to find shorter chain molecules. And they refer to those as how many carbons are in the molecule. So you'll hear, I want a C6 chemistry or C7 or C8. And these things are all the 12, 13, 14.
Right. So why are they trying to find the shorter?
They're essentially more biodegradable, better for the environment, less hazardous. I hope nobody quotes me on any of those three I just said, but they are better. There is good reasons for it. A lot of it has to do with fish, BOD, COD, like when stuff goes into the water, it demands oxygen. They call it a chemical oxygen demand or a biological oxygen demand. And if you have too much in the water, you'll lose oxygen, and fish don't like that. So it's what's happening in the Gulf of Mexico today from all the fertilizer that comes down the Mississippi. If you look at from the sky, you can actually see the flow coming out of the Mississippi, and it sucks the oxygen out of the Gulf, and there's some big dead areas. So that can happen in rivers and streams, and most textile mills have their own processing facility to remove that oxygen demand. But that's one of the reasons. Skin irritation or any sort of EHS issue are always part of those type of things.
Yeah, I wonder if this is the same thing, because like I said, your world is still mysterious to me, but we have a lot of brands come to us where we make kind of invention type apparel. But he is a former firefighter, and he is trying to make underwear that's essentially like more of a shield against the fire retardant chemicals, because according to what he told me,
Yeah.
is they are causing testicular cancer.
Really?
That or there's a high rate of testicular cancer in firefighters.
Wow.
And I don't know if it's been proven, as a link
Uh-huh.
to the fire retardant. I didn't get that deep with him on, his proof or whatever, but yeah, I wonder if that's like part of what you're talking about,
So I'll tell you, fire retardants have always been a huge red flag. Huge.
Okay.
It's just important if you are getting an FR rated fabric. It's important to know the steps of how it gets to that rating.
Right.
And it starts over here. The government said you have to protect children laying in their beds. 1953, they said they need to be able to scream out if they're on fire. So they said, okay, let's take this fleece and put it at a 45-degree angle. Light the one end. It has to take more than 6 seconds to get to the top. And then you pass.
Okay.
Okay, so everyone's great.
That's how that worked. Okay.
Now, fleece is really just a flammable material separated by oxygen, by fuel, if you think about it. The little fibers that'll burn real well, full of oxygen. And so it is a very dangerous thing from the fire perspective. And so now the government will say you have to do this, but then they step back. They don't say how. And so people just stood up and said, well, I know some chemicals that don't burn.
Sure.
This is usually the worst case scenario,
Yeah.
And so they made they call them halogenated chemistries, bromine, brominated chemistries. And so original fire retardants, there was a Danish study 5-10 years ago. I don't remember exactly, but they found this chemical in women's breast milk because they hold the baby's fleece up against their skin. And so they targeted those folks to test them. And they just, same product was sitting in their blood. And so that I know brands that won't make fleece on purpose because they don't want to put these chemistries on it. And so there are brands that are very forward thinking when it comes to that. And you know what? They don't get any press for that. It's too bad, because I'm impressed when I hear a developer at a brand say, we won't even touch it.
Right.
And then
it's a lot of people, I don't think, know about it. Like you said, like that.
Right.
We're just not aware of how our fabric comes to us and all of the things that it goes through and all the processes and chemicals.
Yeah.
It's a lack of awareness, I think.
Yeah, it's a consumer who demands a solution, but doesn't care where it comes. I mean, do I get full when I eat at McDonald's? Yeah, I'm really full. Feels great. Well,
Yeah.
But did it matter to me to do that? Yeah, it matters.
Right.
Should I have had something else? Maybe, but I mean,
that's true. Yeah.
It's the same with clothing. So we are all responsible. And I lived this because I was here when the industry left, right? And then I had to go over there to do all my work all these years, right? So we want lower priced product. That's it. We are responsible, not the big box stores, not them. They're not responsible for it. They're fulfilling a demand.
Yep.
Of all the price index products, if you look at these price index for the last 30 years, you see some things cost more, some things cost less. Like TVs are under the line, Guess what's right down the middle is clothing. It's up 3.5%. Same as that's population, by the way. So they always grow at the population.
Yeah.
And why is that? It's because the demand is that, the day we walk into Target and the t-shirt cost $18, just plain old t-shirt, that day we'll say there's a recession, right? That day we'll all freak out. Nobody wants to raise that price though. Everyone's sticking And so they all make more profit, though. You have to think about that. How can they be making more profit after 30 years? The price has not been risen. I mean, these people are like miracles. They're miracle workers. And that's from your world. So those who are making product, and from logistics changing.
Yeah.
You know,
well, and it's exploitation.
That too, maybe. That too.
You know, definitely. I mean, at least labor wise, there's a lot of exploitation going on. You know, when it was made, you know, back when it was made in the US, people were paid more of what you'd call living wage to make the product, at least on, you know, the cut and sew side.
Yeah.
And now when you go make it in Bangladesh or wherever, comparatively, I mean, it's literally a penny on the dollars, you know.
Yeah. So the last story we had was Brooks Brothers. They had been making clothing up until just a couple of years ago. Yeah. They were the last one to really not, you know, they lasted through, I don't know, 180 years or something. Every war, Civil War, they did everything. They didn't last through the shutdown, right?
Yeah.
So, and, you know, there were people making $35 an hour, $50 an hour who know how to sew, pattern people. And yeah, in Mauritius, they make, you know, 37 cents.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
Of course, it feeds their family. So I'm a big proponent on let them work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I love them too. I do. They're people. And so they're different. Now, why are all our stuff going over there? And why are the chemicals going down the river and polluting, you know, their food stream? Those things we are all responsible for, all Americans.
Yeah. I do think, you know, you're 100% right. And I talk about the same thing quite often. But I really, and maybe I just have a lot of faith in humanity, but I feel like if more people understood why the t-shirt costs $8, $5, whatever they're paying, and how, and I know, you know, they don't want to hear it, some of them, but if you could get it in front of them, like, this is why, this is how it's so cheap. And it's, you know, here's all of the places people are being exploited. Here's all the chemicals. Here's all the, like you said, the water running down the rivers. Like if I just feel like a lot of people don't know it. Cause like my family, I have this huge family and none of them are in apparel. And whenever I have like a you know, family reunion, I'll start talking about what I do and people are just like blown away. Like, really? I had no idea. Right. Like, people kind of know something about like the labor is a little fishy, but that's kind of it, right? I don't think people understand. So I have faith if people knew, they would, not everybody, but I think more people would start making choices that, you know, where did this come from? How did it get here?
Yeah, I think all people have to do is start asking on Instagram. I mean, honestly, if a certain percentage of the big box stores, consumers were asking questions, not being rude or any of that stuff, but asking questions, I think that message eventually gets back to managers and merchandisers. And so, you know, I work for some clients that have processes that save water when they bleach cotton. And so it's an interesting journey to bring this value proposition downstream. Because the closer you get to the consumer, the less they know. But it's like what upsets me this week, I think, is the consumer way of looking at things. Polyester, oh, it's bad, it's oil. Oh my goodness, this computer that we're using, by the way, was because of oil. And it's like we have to get from being really, really incensed about something we use, or putting down things, you know, compare, you know, this is better than that. Instead of being grateful for what we have, okay, we should be grateful. We can go to any store we want and buy whatever we want and be grateful for that stuff, and then suggest how to improve something that isn't something you're grateful for, right? And and then asking people about it who are experts. Who knows what? Watch YouTube. My goodness.
Right.
Yeah, I can learn how to grow anything now on
Right,
YouTube.
exactly.
One last thing I wanted to mention about trends is digitization.
Okay.
So digital, the word digital, just add it to anything, digital anything. That's what's being invested in now. So brands have people scouring the world for digital print, digital processing, digital software that helps with things, digital sewing. I'm sure you've heard about a few people trying to do that. And if you can get involved in a business that is digital, AI, maybe this word, it's probably going to be a solid place for 20 years.
Yeah, very, very good point. Do you know anything about natural fiber recycling? Is that happening?
Well, I was hired by a very large brand to develop a new cotton recycling process. And I like helping people who are actually taking actual garments and then turning them back into yarn and then garments.
Yes.
And so, and that's just me. I mean, I say I'm nobody really. And so that trickled down to me. There must be hundreds of people doing this all over.
Sure.
I have a client that takes nylon 6 fishing nets are made of nylon 6.
Yeah.
And they are taking that and turning it back into nylon 6 yarn, and it's soft and good and it works. And so that there are companies doing that, and some of them doing them very well, as a matter of fact. They're all startups, these type of folks. We have large companies who are recycling things like carpet, and they'll turn it back into a yarn. There's a little bit of a difference when you take something and turn it into a powder, a plastic, and then turn it again, you spin it again into yarn, and that's a really remarkable thing. So I can tell you, yes, there are people doing it. Now, this gets back again to the buyers and consumers. Does anybody really care?
Oh, I think millennials care. Or but do they care with their money?
Yes, that's what cared. Now, again, we can just talk all day long. Oh, I hate polyester. I hate polyester. Oh, it's so bad. It's so bad. Oh, we have to recycle. We got to save the world, Even though what we do is the second largest polluting business in the world. I tell students this. I think it shocks them at first, but then I also tell them, maybe not polluting, I shouldn't use it, but second largest resource user, right? So textiles use water if you add the agricultural component. I tell them that means you have an opportunity to impact it positively more than anything. The only better way is to become a farmer, because they use even more. And then figure that out. But in textiles, there's a great opportunity to fix things, to make it better, to improve things. So I would say the scales are being figured out right now. People they touch the space, let's throw some product out on a shelf in the middle of nowhere and see if anyone buys it, for an average selling price of a little bit more. And people are doing that research. So they're checking consumer response. I think the question is, who's going to pay for it? And we really need to talk about, like, if I was going to stand out in the middle of somewhere with a sign, I would say, this product costs $20. I'm willing to spend $30 right on the sign. I'll pay $30. And that's what it will be, because people will multiply whatever the raw material difference is by 5, 3 to 5. But if you get a fabric that costs $2 more, they want $10 on the MSRP for that. And that's just the difference. $10, just the difference, right? So that's going to be the question. I think we have a generation now that actually do care. They say this generation wants to be like their grandparents. That was my favorite quote. I saw somebody who knows about this stuff was talking. And he said they want to be like their grandparents. That's like the record players started selling, record players.
Sure.
Great. My daughter wants a record player. She's 15.
Yep.
I'm going to get her one.
True. Yeah.
It's some Journey albums, right? And all that stuff. She's so I think what we'll see that's going to be frontline. This is frontline trench work right now, is figuring out who's going to pay for it, when, where.
Right.
That's the big challenge.
I really hope, or I see too, I do think people are going to start caring about who made their stuff too, where it came from, what chemicals went into it. I think, and caring about like having some kind of a connection, whether it's in the US or not, but just understanding who made it, and I see the generation coming up caring about that. So fingers crossed, I guess.
I feel like, so the generation before them did the job of bringing it up. They never bought anything, but that's the way, that's the summary for them. They're like 35 now or whatever. So they end up getting jobs and kids and, and they just didn't, because there really weren't a lot of solutions when it first came up.
Right.
Kids from the 90s and 2000s. So now I think there are some good solutions, and we'll see how that goes. One of my big pet peeves is greenwashing.
I was going to bring that up.
What I call green wishing. It's even worse. It's a step down.
Green wishing. I like that.
I wish it works. I wish it does. So I think there have been so many liars.
Yes.
And that's the sad part.
There's no accountability.
People will say almost anything that's legal. Just because something's legal doesn't mean you should say it or do it, right? This classic line.
Right.
And I think we just, that's part of what I do for my clients is figure out, is this real?
Right.
And honestly, it's unfortunate not everyone has a network, but I only have to call a couple people and I'll find out, is it real, if I don't know myself. And those people are like World War II veterans, man. They're getting older every day, like I said, I'm the youngest of the old people, with textile chemistry background. The guys that I really look up to and look forward to hearing information are, 70s, 80s. I'm 50. So I think we have to transfer that. And that's part of why I'm talking to you. I want to grow our network.
Yep, for sure. So how can people find you, Harrie?
That's a funny thing you say. I'm on LinkedIn. I help student sections, which is part of why I reached out to you in the first place, because most of the students that are going through university level programs are actually not there for textile chemistry. I get brought in to talk to them about textiles, on the technical side. I've been president of AATCC as well. I'm the past president today. This is the American Association of Textile Chemists and Colorists. And that is, we have a long name because we talk too much. We just, we've been trying to sell color, for a long time. It's a tough life, but we have a great group of friends. We've known each other the whole time. Once you're a textile chemist, unless you open a bakery, you're in, for life. We all dream of that bakery, I tell you. So I have a name. It's just unique. I'm a first generation American, and my name is, I have figured out no one else has it in the whole world. This is my personal belief. Harrie Schoots, spelt with an I-E, Harrie. So you can find me. It's not hard, is my point.
Okay.
And, there was one Harrie Schoots in Holland. And he owns a bunch of banks, and I friended him. I said, we should just be friends. He goes, I agree. Yeah.
That's great. That's
so
great.
if you go on LinkedIn, you'll find me there. And also Instagram is the page I use to communicate with all the student sections, AATCC student chapters.
Okay.
And if there are students who are at school, university level, I look forward to helping them or mentoring
Well, and
them.
hopefully you can inspire some up and coming chemists to,
I think so. I
because
think
even,
that's,
even if, because I went into apparel design manufacturing, I've always found the whole textile chemist side of it fascinating, right? And I never met, like, nobody came and spoke to my class like you. But if they would have, I might have been like, I might veer my career over here a little bit, or
yeah, and it's interesting. You judge groups of people or by the school or what the major's called. But I was talking to FIT students last year and the year before, and I kept calling them designers, and they corrected me twice and said, "We're not. I want to be a product developer.
yeah,
I want to work in home linens." I'm
yeah,
like, wow, this is okay.
yeah, very
This is
cool.
this
Yeah.
is cool.
I love that. I love the language. It is starting to change too, that product developer, even pattern engineer instead of pattern maker. Like I like where people are starting to understand this is like a science. This is
Yeah,
the whole process is
yeah.
more than just design,
I feel like writing these things I know that will ruin products, but if you don't do them, they'll ruin them. I just want to scratch them down somewhere. And just like, for instance, the reason people use 3 dyes in a formula to dye fabric is not because you need all those colors. Sometimes you can do it with 2 or even 1 if you're lucky, found a dye that hits right your color, which, by the way, no designer will ever agree to. But if they just did, oh my gosh.
Of course not. Of course not.
They just did. So they use 3 because that eliminates metamerism. Do you know what metamerism is?
No, I don't. What is that?
That is when a shirt looks different under different illuminants. So you're in a store and it looks great, and then you walk outside in the sun and it changes its tint or whatever.
Oh.
And that's a disaster, right? No one wants metamerism. So there is a test for metamerism, and anyone who's supplying you fabric should tell you what is the metamerism value of this garment. But the reason they do 3 is because all those spectral curves line up on top of each other and will eliminate any illuminant problem. Like an illuminant has a spectral curve, and it's a fascinating, I know, like 100 of those things. I just,
that's amazing. That's amazing. Well,
like, why do they put long fibers into spacesuits? I had NASA call me once and ask me that.
Yeah.
Why did they spec Egyptian cotton?
Well,
and I went, oh, hold on. At first I went, I'm not sure.
There's probably a lot of reasons, right?
Well, think about it. There's no glue on your shirt, but it still holds together, right?
Right.
Your
durability.
There's no glue at all, but it doesn't unravel. And that's really just from the friction of those little fibers holding each other. And the friction is not linear. So the longer the fiber is and the more touch points there are, the stronger it'll hold. And then you go in 0 gravity. And of course, you need, in every direction, you need that hold. Right. And so I said, don't get rid of that.
Yeah, do not.
Yes.
Do not get rid of that.
2.5 inch.
That's really interesting. But so, well, thank you so much for chatting. This has been extremely fascinating to me. Like I said, another life. I would love to get in, to study this more. I love geeking out on any of the nerdy stuff about the industry.
Well, I do too, and that's why I got your book, which I'm waiting for. It's not out yet, right?
Right. I have a copy right here.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, here it is.
No, I do actually look forward to that, and I want to talk to you about that at another time, because I am working on an app to do the mathematics of this. So like everything from how much yarn you have, what it would cost, and how that goes through to the fabric and the garment level. Yes. And if you had this much dye and it cost this much, what would it cost per linear yard of fabric? Or if my fabric goes from 58 inches to 56 inches wide, what's the linear weight after that?
Yep.
Just simple math, like something that you should be able to have on your phone. And so your book is what it delivers. It delivers the information to that person who's making decisions. And so it was nice to see that you put that together and at a reasonable price. Because I don't like textbook pricing. I don't. I know. We did a lot of debating to go textbook, but everything I do, I'm like, the whole point is I'm trying to make things more accessible. I'm trying to
reveal the mysteries. You know, I'm also the youngest of the older, or what, you know, like I'm a little bit younger than you, so I joined the industry right after NAFTA.
Right.
You know,
right.
and so everybody just like vanished as soon as I joined.
It takes
so
2 years to destroy an industry.
Right. Yeah. And so I've been like I feel like I've been wading through, like swimming through the industry, like going, where did all the people go that can teach me things, right? And so I've just been figuring it out on my own and realizing how closed up, like you said, trade secrets and everything's just like kind of locked up tight. And I'm like, yeah, I think the world's ready for more smaller brands, entrepreneurs,
you
know, people like want to know where their clothes, like I want to know my clothes are made locally, or maybe not even locally, but I know the designer who made them, or, you know,
Sure.
I think people are ready for that. And so, yeah, my whole vision is just like revealing the mysteries. Like, let's like open it up and not make it so like, you got to know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody to figure it out, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So,
and I'm here to help people if they really want that kind of thing, including yourself, and hopefully and I think we all should just have parties at different cities. I think there needs to be socials. I started doing socials at AATCC, you know, free of charge. You don't have to tell us you're coming, just show up type thing.
yeah.
And, you know, last summer we had a great social that had people from every part of the industry during the Functional Fabric Fair in New York City. And I'll do that again this July. So if anyone's in the city, look for that. I put that on my LinkedIn, call it Summer Social in the City. And they are doing one for Portland next week. AATCC is having a social. And I think we just need more of that. So, you know, we could tell you, come to our technical meeting at AATCC. It's spring and fall, which is true. And it's free. They're free. Right. But the thing is, you have to get to Raleigh. And a lot of these young folks who are trying to build brands live somewhere, you know, and they don't take planes places, you know, like we did for our jobs. And so somewhere between getting online access, which we do have, and doing things like this, I think it should be able to work for those who struggle and reach out. It takes work, you know, to meet people. Still, it's never going to be easy.
No,
but if you watch videos like this and connect with people like yourself, then I think that's more than half the battle.
For sure. Well, thank you so much, Harrie. Hopefully I'll be seeing you soon at some events coming up, maybe in Atlanta.
Yes, I'll see you there.
Atlanta? Okay, sounds good.
All right. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.